Good morning and welcome to Out of the Box Technology Tuesday featuring Avalara. We're going to give everyone just a moment to join and then we'll begin our presentation.
We need that old-fashioned music from the game show.
Yeah.
While you're thinking about the right answer.
You can hum a little tune for us.
Going to be a major test after this webinar.
Okay, we will go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining today's webinar. We've got our special guest here today, Avalara. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping slides, a little bit about out-of-the-box technology. If you haven't joined us before, or maybe it's been a while, we are anything and everything QuickBooks, and our growing team of over 50 QuickBooks certified consultants and service providers are your one-stop shop for all your QuickBooks needs, whether it's data services, bookkeeping, training and consulting, cloud hosting. Our team is here to support you. For today's session, we want it to be interactive. So we want to give you all a chance to ask as many questions as you like and to be able to participate in the conversation. So what I'm going to do is, after we do some introductions, I will be unmuting everybody. And this will allow you to come on and off mute as you wish. So once I say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everyone, if you wouldn't mind just muting yourself so we can keep the background noise down, but that will enable you to come on and off mute on your own control with this platform. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jamie Dunn with Avalara and let them kick things off for us.
Thank you, Lindsay, and thank you all of our friends at Out of the Box. My name's Jamie Dunn. I've been working with Out of the Box for almost a decade, over a decade. Out of the Box is a very important partner to Avalara in the QuickBooks ecosystem. And we want to make sure that you all know that we've got your back with sales tax compliance. Kevin Rutledge is the sales expert that's dedicated to Out of the Box, and he's going to do most of our presentation today. And Rebecca Bradyberg is our marketing expert, and she is the one who helps get all this important information in front of people like you. So again, as Lindsay said, the best thing for everybody is to ask questions, be interactive. Don't feel like we're doing some boring speech on sales tax. This is for you to learn and for you to really get a little bit more of a handle on how we can help you. Yeah, so Kevin, I think probably share your slides would be great.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. So if you can just mute yourselves, that would be great.
Okay. Sorry for the snafu. I'm not sure how to share my screen on this.
There you go.
I think you got it.
Yeah, we're getting there now. Okay. There. Okay. Sorry. All right. Forgive me. I'm sorry. A little slow there. Sorry about that.
All the platforms are different. No worries.
yeah, come up here. So anyway, my name is Kevin Rutledge. I've been with Avalara since April of 2020. It was quite a shift in career for me. So learning about sales tax during my tenure here has been eye-opening to say the least. So definitely love Avalara, and we have a lot to kind of go through. So let's go ahead and get started. First, kind of about Avalara. We are a global company, 4,800 employees worldwide, 16 offices in every aspect, or, all different areas of the world, and have been in operation, founded in Bainbridge Island, Washington since 2004. Avalara's goal is to be part of every global transaction that's related to sales tax, VAT, GST, PST. Currently, it's for tax calculations in 2022. Avalara was part of an astonishing number of almost 40 billion ATI or Avatax API calls for just that, for tax calculations and related to VAT, GST, PST. Also managed over 31 million tax documents, be it 1099s and exemption certificates, vendor certificates, and filed over 5 million sales tax returns in 2022. Currently have about 30,000 customers and over 1,200 signed partner integrations. So Avalara has the ability to integrate with, almost any ERP, CRM, e-commerce platform, inventory management. If you can name it, it's a good chance that Avalara has the ability to integrate for the automation of sales tax compliance.
One side note on that, just to put this into real life for y'all. Imagine Avalara employees on Black Friday and Amazon Prime days. These tax calculations, these billions of tax calculations, we've got people that work through the weekends and overnights just to kind of keep all that stuff smooth and going straight. It's pretty crazy.
Sure, thank you. So we're going to start it off with just a little quick quiz. I know everybody was excited about that. So Oregon is part of the nomad states, the 5 states that do not have sales tax. So it would be Oregon, Montana, Alaska, Delaware, and I believe New Hampshire. And even though Oregon has no sales tax, one of these following products is considered taxable. Does anybody have a guess they want to venture as to which one it is?
Feel free to say it out loud or write it in the chat. I think there was a TV show about Portland being weird or keeping it weird. I'm from Seattle, so I'm allowed to talk about Portland like that. So we don't have any chatters, but the answer is, believe it or not, the bicycle. Who would think that in Portland, Oregon, that the bicycle is the taxable item when nothing else is taxable? Because they want people so badly to be more like a pedestrian. So that tax goes to a Connect Oregon fund that provides grants for bicycles and pedestrian transportation products. So it's kind of interesting. They really kind of picked and choose where they want their money to go there.
Who would have thunk it? Okay. So the next portion we're going to jump into is the current state of managing sales tax. One of the biggest challenges for managing sales tax, per the poll here, would be understanding nexus. Nexus, outside of physical nexus, there's economic nexus, and it has a lot of variations depending on the state. Things that directly impact nexus generating activity, or having nexus through economic nexus, obviously would be increased online sales, remote employees, which would be physical nexus, inventory storage, drop shipping. All of these impact sales tax obligations and are directly related to nexus obligations. Each state and local jurisdictions have their own tax and rules, And then, as you can see here, in 2022, there were about over 102,000 rate and taxability updates in the US and in Canada. So managing sales tax can be extremely complicated. The other larger, challenge around managing sales tax is keeping up with the changing tax laws. And as you can see, there was quite a bit of those changes related to the rates and taxability through 2022. And Avalara is designed to manage this and take it off the person responsible's plate, so they're not having to understand and deal with these changes. Avalara will handle it on our cloud-based solution, all managed and updated in real time. So with that, the 5 steps of managing sales tax compliance, obviously based on that poll, which is one of the bigger concerns, is understanding where the business must collect and remit sales tax. So the examples they showed were related to economic and physical nexus. Economic being a newer concept that came about in 2018 from the Supreme Court case between South Dakota versus Wayfair. Once the Supreme Court ruled in favor of South Dakota, states started enacting economic nexus thresholds, which we'll see a little bit more of in the next few slides. The next step, once you have an understanding of where to collect and remit sales tax, is the registration process, which Avalara can manage for you as well. Calculating the correct sales tax based upon the jurisdiction rules and taxability. And Avalara has the ability to calculate this and understand those rules based upon rooftop of the ship to address. So the accuracy goes all the way down to the rooftop. Tracking and managing exempt sales. Avalara has a very robust solution around the handling and management of exemption certificates. One of the most interesting or clarifying things that I'd ever been told in my tenure here with Avalara is there's regarding sales taxes, either you charge sales tax or prove otherwise. And managing these exemption certificates is proof of otherwise calculating and charging sales tax. And then, of course, the remittance of sales tax to the correct taxing authorities and jurisdictions. So the solution that Avalara provides will manage all of this from end to end. We will, help track economic nexus, get you registered where the registrations need to take place. The cloud-based solution will manage the sales tax calculation and taxability rules based upon the ship to address in the jurisdiction. Track and manage exemption certificates to verify and protect against audit those exempt sales, and then file and remit all the way through the payment to the correct jurisdiction and taxing authorities. So with that, the latest on economic nexus, we have our first question here. So our second question, how many sales and use tax updates were there in 2022? Any guesses? Anybody want to chime in? All right.
I'm going to guess 10,680. Am I right?
A very educated guess, but that is absolutely correct. So there were 10,668 sales and use tax rate updates in the US and Canada. And then on top of that, with the rates, there was also taxability updates. So there were 102,369 rate and taxability updates, and then 122,974 US sales tax holiday rules updates. So part of the, I think we have one actually coming up with back to school, understanding the holiday sales tax holiday rules, again, is something that Avalara manages in real time. So this seems like a daunting number. All these numbers are daunting. They're huge, and trying to keep up with those if you're dealing with sales tax in 15, 20, 30, 40 states would take an army.
Yeah. What this means to you guys, just by the way, is is that not even your accountants or bookkeepers can handle this for you anymore. So these numbers are so crazy, it honestly should be illegal that this country has made it so impossible for small business owners and accounting people to manage sales tax for their clients that it actually just has to be automated. It's a no-brainer whatsoever because we own every single bit of information to make this smooth for you and you don't have to think about it. Otherwise, you're paying somebody a lot of money every month to go research these changes.
Absolutely, no question. I mean, automation is a must. You'd have a team of people working on it for sure. Economic nexus allows states to impose sales tax on remote sellers. There are 45 states and territories, Puerto Rico, that have enacted economic nexus laws, and it's continues to change. In Missouri, just recently added theirs as recent as the first of this year, in January 1st of 2023. Prior to that, Florida had just added theirs in July of I believe it was 2022 or 2021, just in the last couple of years. And then 88% of businesses said that the waiver decision impacted their company, impacted how their company conducts business. So with this law passing, it gave states the ability to start taxing remote sellers. And of course, as these businesses create economic nexus in additional states, it creates a higher level of complexity, as we've already kind of shown through, the different rules and changes that take place, but also the number of taxing jurisdictions. I mean, there's something like 13,000 different taxing jurisdictions, and being able to manage that and know that and even do the research for that, if you're dealing with, more than a handful of states, is a pretty tall order, really. And then even some states that are classified as home rule states allow local jurisdictions to have their own tax rates and rules around what the, things that are being sold in those jurisdictions, in those local jurisdictions. Colorado is a well-known one. Alaska is one. Alaska has no state sales tax, but they have local jurisdictions that have different tax rates and taxing rules. So being able to kind of stay abreast of that and understand that, and any changes that take place around that, it's a pretty big deal, and it would be difficult to manage. Again, a company like Avalara is able to manage all of that. This one always kind of, the next couple of slides always make me kind of almost laugh ironically and cringe. I mean, these are the different thresholds that states have enacted since the 2018 South Dakota versus Wayfair ruling. So you can see they vary greatly from state to state. You have some states that most, the light blue, or these are considered, or it is an or statement. So it would be either the $100,000 or 200 transactions. And then we have the others that are just revenue driven, and then the no VAT states where there are no state sales tax, so there's no economic laws in place. Some of the changes that have taken place, Connecticut recently has changed their threshold to an end statement. So in other words, you wouldn't have to meet either or one or the other in terms of criteria. You would actually have to meet both. New York has a similar threshold, that it's 500,000, I believe, 100 transactions. And then let's see, yeah, there it is right there. And then South Dakota and Louisiana, as of the 1st of this month, actually eliminated their transactional threshold. So they are based solely on revenue. So that would be the 100,000, and they dropped for South Dakota, and then Louisiana is also 100,000. So you don't have to worry about the transactional level. And I think that was done or designed to help alleviate some of the pressure for small businesses, so that they would have to actually generate a larger amount of revenue, and it's not based upon just the transactional level, because it can be $210 transactions for a small business, which is obviously well below $100,000, but still have created that obligation to have the obligation to collect and remit sales tax. Sorry, I kind of repeated myself there, but the next slide shows how each state deals with certain sales. So California, Texas, the darker blue states are gross sales, and then include sales through marketplaces. So you think of your Amazon, Etsy, Walmart. They have marketplaces, and those sales for those remote sellers would count towards these states' economic nexus thresholds. And then we have states that would count gross receipts but do not include marketplace sales. And then conversely, we have states that do just retail sales, including sales made through marketplaces, and then retail excluding marketplaces. Taxable sales excluding sales made through marketplaces. It's just, it's all over the place. I mean, it's darn near impossible to really kind of manage this on your own.
I just wanted to jump in here too. I mean, this is just so shocking to me that it is so different for every state. And then we have another map that we didn't include in this deck that shows which states include exempt sales in their thresholds and which ones don't. And it's so confusing and crazy. So I just wanted to jump in there. My 2 cents.
Florida, we mentioned, just started theirs in 2021. They do not include exempt sales, but it's all related to basically tangible personal property. So even sales made to reselling partners don't count towards their threshold, which is kind of unique from some of the others. But it is, as Rebecca mentioned, this is really difficult to keep up with. And again, that's why businesses partner with Avalara. We can manage this, track it, alert people to when they are reaching certain levels of a threshold and when they exceed that threshold. And then we were able to help them get registered and then start calculating sales tax for these for each individual state. So again, just kind of a little overwhelming, the different, how each state handles it and the obligations of businesses, small and large, to keep track of all of this. It would be very difficult. So state-specific updates. I know there was a lot of talk earlier this year about Colorado and their delivery fee. Minnesota is set to impose a similar delivery fee starting July 1st of next year. South Dakota considered exempting groceries, but instead decided to lower their overall sales tax rates. Starting the 1st of August, Louisiana will eliminate its 200 transactional threshold. And then 22 bills introduced in 2023 to create sales tax exemptions for the interchange fee payment processors charge retailers for credit card transactions. I mean, just the idea, like, I can't even imagine where I would find this information, this last bit of information, let alone these other pieces. So you would either have to have the awareness of it ahead of time in order to go find that information. So if you didn't know that Louisiana had eliminated their threshold, you might be making business decisions on information that's faulty, right? It's no longer applicable. So, or if the changes in the interchange fee payment processors, how would you know that right off the top of your head? I mean, if you missed an email, there's different ways that this would just fall under escape you, and you would then be processing payments and collecting payments with sales tax where it wasn't applicable. So again, partnering with a company like with Avalara, we would be able to manage all of this for you. So any of these changes that take place, we manage it real time in our cloud-based system. Jamie, I saw you waving. Did you want to add something?
That was a bug, but
oh, okay. I thought maybe
there was a fly, but no, and to also really think back to wrapping around what Kevin just said. Not only are we managing it through our automated product, just like a payroll product, but we're taking on that liability for you. So if you're all set up properly in our system, which you should be with the help of Avalara and smart people, then Avalara then owns the liability of when you file and if you're filing correctly. So that's another huge relief for you.
Yeah, part of that, thank you for bringing that up, is part of that notice of the filing and remitting is notice management. So any remote or filings that Avalara has done from a sales tax perspective, if you receive a notice from the state questioning it in any way, your clients would just get to forward that to us and we take it up with the state. So we take full responsibility for everything that we're doing. So yeah. All right. So which of these states has 26 pages of tax rules for campgrounds? Anybody? No?
Where do people camp? Which of these states has 26 pages of tax rules for campgrounds?
Yeah.
It's got to be Colorado because Colorado is such a nightmare with everything else. What is it?
Yeah, no, it's actually Wisconsin. Which, again, I was surprised. I would have figured either California or Colorado. But yeah. So Wisconsin has a mind-boggling number of different charges associated with even the most rustic camping, from fees for electrical hookups to self-service laundry machines and sewage disposal. So,
Wow.
yeah. And then modernizing tax compliance through technology. So Avalara has recently partnered with ChatGPT, and we, as capabilities of technology and AI grow, both businesses and regulatory agencies can benefit. So we're modernizing the electronic registration of filing, establishing single source of truth for data collection and validation, automating the exchange of information. So as far as AI, another thing that we also have sales tax classification program for the onboarding process for customers that have a great deal of products and need to understand how those align with taxability based upon each state's regulations. Example, Rhode Island introduced legislation that will require credit card companies to report tax amounts to their state and local jurisdictions within 48 hours. So AI has been a part of Avalara, and it continues to be part of our growth and trajectory into the future. Part of that was the ChatGPT integration that Avalara is going to have, where you can add this to your Avalara subscription and are able to query ChatGPT for tax rates. This is given a little explanation of the GPT and what ChatGPT is overall. So generative, it can generate next word, has pre-trained on a lot of text from the internet, that's ready to respond to questions, transform, underlying deep neural network uses particular kind of network architecture called the transformer, and then chat being that it's conversational. And the overall model is allowed, it teaches, it's learning how to be conversational and respond in such a way. So look, Rebecca, did you want to add something there?
I just wanted to say, I think most people on the call have used ChatGPT, except for Jamie, because I know Jamie.
I want to be authentic in my communication style,
yes.
Rebecca.
Yes, Jamie and I talk about, I'm like, well, just do on ChatGPT. She's like, I'm not gonna do that. So I think it's funny. I think a lot of people know, but some may not.
Well,
you know?
and what I didn't know either is that you can just get your own ChatGPT account for free.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw my husband this weekend. There's some sports competition coming up where everybody's doing, you guys, what is that called? Where you make all these bets in groups?
Oh, the ranking, what is that called?
Are you talking about fantasy football, or?
Yeah,
correct.
like the bracket.
Bracket, correct. He's doing the bracket on some sport, and he asked ChatGPT what his bracket should be, and it gave him the answers in detail.
Oh my gosh.
So I will
So
follow up.
everybody will have the same answers.
Yeah, we got to know how that turns out for sure.
Isn't that interesting? I mean,
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, ChatGPT is very interesting overall. I mean, I've used it. I've made my free account and have tried it a few times. It's still, I don't know, maybe it's my age or what have you, but it seems a little unnerving. I think I kind of side with you on that one, Jamie, for sure. We have some, the press release around the ChatGPT and how that will be part of, it would be an offering to go with your subscription. And then we have some, we have some screen. Oh, did that change? I'm sorry. Oh, here we go. I passed it. Sorry. So just kind of some screenshots where you're able to interact what the interaction with ChatGPT would look like. You're able to, again, put in addresses, and it gives you the tax rates in all the jurisdictions where you would be able to do kind of like any kind of research or one-offs where you're potentially writing up a bid or, whatever the circumstances may be. This would be an add-on with Avalara, and you'd be able to do this right through this integration with ChatGPT. So I would assume, I believe that this will continue to grow and other functionality will come around it. Rebecca, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a couple of points on this one. So currently, in order to use the plugin, you have to be a subscriber to ChatGPT. It doesn't come with the free version. And if you are using the free version, you probably know that all data is before, I think it's September 2021. But if you have the subscribed version, so you pay for ChatGPT, it does use the most recent information, and that's when you can also get the calculations using Avalara. I also wanted to mention that anything that's available through ChatGPT is also available on our website. You don't have to have ChatGPT to get this information. You can search avalara.com and you'll get the same information. It's just kind of easier, more consolidated here in ChatGPT. So they're using information that's available on our website, they being ChatGPT with that plugin, but you don't have to have it to get that same information.
Yeah, certainly not, but it is kind of a cool little addition for sure. Yeah. And as the ability or, the queries that can be added to ChatGPT, the plugin with Avalara grows, it may become a more valuable tool overall and something that's probably used on a more regular basis potentially. But it's definitely exciting and pretty cool that Avalara is fostering this partnership, so for sure. All right. So the next question, can you guess? New York taxes some powdered beverage mixes, but one is exempt. Any thoughts?
somebody's got to have an opinion on this one. Which one is exempt from tax in New York State? Like my mind goes to, does something have dairy in it? Does something have a certain chemical that would put it in a category that's not food?
I would think that would be based on like potential
Sugar-free.
sugar content. I would think it would be sugar content, but that would exclude Crystal Light. So I think it would be Crystal Light.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
Well,
it's
it
not.
is Tang. It is Tang. And the rumor is that New York exempts Tang because Tang went to the moon, and we should honor the astronauts and Tang for that. But the sad truth is nobody knows. And I have actually done a ton of research on this yesterday. And because we've been doing this question for a long time, and I've never been able to find the answer. There's no dairy in Tang. There's no difference whatsoever. It's just that's how weird they make these rules. There is zero reason other than maybe that's because they went to the moon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, even my sugar thought process doesn't really add up. I mean, Kool-Aid, you add sugar.
Right. It's just
I
weird.
Zero, obviously. Yeah. All right. And then we've talked about it's just come up a few times. Avalara has an end-to-end tax compliance for business. It's completely automated. And these are the different pillars of that end-to-end compliance. Obviously is the first piece would be the licensing, business registration, permits, tax registrations, VAT registrations. We also have license management platforms for businesses that have to carry a lot of licenses and permits for locations or even industry specific license and permits. Insight, we have the tax research, tax code classification, HS code classification for overseas and international sales, and then even sales tax risk assessments for understanding Nexus and POS content. Document management would be, customer exemptions, vendor exemptions, 1099, property tax, which is a fairly new product for us, and the 1099 was a recent acquisition as well. Calculations for sales and use tax, consumer use, excise, cross-border for putting duty and tariffs charges, customer facing, VAT, GST, and we also have for communications. There's a lot of complexity around communications tax, and we have that ability as well. The reporting for sales and use, excise, GST, VAT, live reporting, property tax, and then of course the global aspect, global representation and e-invoicing, which recently kind of kicked off overseas as well. We mentioned earlier that Avalara has signed partner integrations for so many different platforms, ERP, POS, CRMs, marketplace, CRMs already mentioned, e-commerce platforms, and so many more. And the list continues to grow. We're continually adding more integrations so that we can partner with more platforms that sales tax would be calculated in going forward. So there's a constant number that's growing for us.
Kevin, can you tell them about the free sales tax risk assessment that they can utilize? They could set up a call with you after this webinar and have a high level view.
So we do, yeah. So we have our standard Avalara sales tax research assessment. We are offering it at no cost, and there are it's something we'd be happy to set up. It is designed to give the customer an overview, a full report of where they have obligations. It gives an estimate of past due obligations, if that's potentially part of the assessment findings, provides recommendations on paths forward, whether that be through just a straight sales tax registration. If a VDA process makes the most sense to mitigate any exposure or past due obligations. But yeah, I would love to have a conversation with anyone around and share, example reports of what that free sales tax assessment would look like and answer any questions around it for sure.
Yeah, and you guys and gals, everybody's afraid of getting on a sales call these days. Nobody wants something else that they have to purchase to make their business successful. Nobody wants to deal with some sales pitch, song and dance. And again, I've been doing this here at Avalara for 10 years, and I've watched our company grow from a few hundred employees to, as Kevin said, 5,000. And what the biggest thing that has happened in my world at Avalara is that our phones used to ring because people were being audited. And an audit is devastating to any company. Every company will be audited in its lifetime. It can be anywhere from $30,000 to $400,000. Obviously, when you look at your books, that's devastating. Having a conversation with Kevin, which is not a sales pitch, about your personal sales tax profile is huge. It's not going to cost you $450 an hour like it would at a fancy CPA's office. It's a conversation where Kevin's going to ask you a few questions about what you're doing and how you're managing things. And guess what? If you're in one state and you're just doing XYZ, he's like, hey, file yourself, you're fine. If you only have to do 4 filings a year and it's super easy and you only have one tax code, do it yourself. But if there's a bunch of stuff that's going on and you're drop shipping here, and then you're also selling on Etsy, and you're also, online, and then you have a brick and mortar shop and you've got all this other stuff going on, just please have the conversation. You're not doing yourself any favors. Our phones are now ringing because people have decided, I really do have to pay attention to this. You don't think for 1 second about automating payroll. You don't even blink an eye at the idea of that. This is way more difficult and way more detrimental than payroll. And it's not a sales pitch. It is 100% getting on the phone with Kevin, who's smart and does this every day, to talk about, like, what are you doing now and what could we do of these 36 products that we have? What piece would help you? So please don't be afraid to reach out. It's really important for your business success.
The only thing I would add to that is, to me, these conversations around relationship building, really. I mean, as Jamie said, the company, the business may not really have a need for automation, or it may not make sense right now, but it might make sense in 6 months, 12 months. Well, we've already had a conversation. You know who I am. You know who Jamie is. You know who the people are here, Rebecca. It's just going to make that next conversation that much easier. We already have met and talked about the business, and now we're just kind of catching up on changes. And then you have a fair understanding of what Avalara can do, what we're providing, and you kind of have an idea of what you're getting yourself into when you come over to Avalara. And as Jamie said, it's a consultative conversation. I am a sales executive at Avalara, but there's more to. My only goal is not to make a sale. My main goal is to educate and help people understand what their potential obligations are and what Avalara can do to help mitigate those obligations. Take time, give it back to you as your clients to help run their business and focus on building their brand, so to speak, as opposed to worrying about sales tax and having to deal with that on a full-time basis. So,
do we have a contact slide, Kevin?
I do not believe we do.
Okay. I'll put our contact. Do not go to avalara.com. Yeah, take that slide.
Yeah.
So we are the personal contacts for out of the box customers and partners. So we don't want you to call 1-800-AVALARA or get in an online chat. With 5,000 employees, everybody, we have offices all over the world. Kevin and Jamie and Rebecca, we are the end of the road and the personal contacts for out of the box. So when Lindsay sends a follow-up email with a slide deck, you'll have our cell phone numbers. You can call us. You can make an appointment with us anytime. We want to be that personal concierge for you. I'll type my contact info, mine and Kevin's, in the box right now. But we actually have 20 or 15 minutes left. So does anybody want to ask any specific questions that we might be able to answer while on the phone?
Kevin, I put your email addresses on the next slide. I probably updated.
Okay.
You want to go to the next slide? No?
I'll just put it in the chat here.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and we can also supply them in the follow-up email that we'll be
Thank you.
sending out there.
Don't be shy. Ask a question. There's no stupid question. Sales tax is extremely hard.
Jamie, I'm going to ask a question. This is Roger. I'm curious with regards to a business doing transactions and establishing its nexus in all 50 states. If a business has nexus and then next year, because of sales volume, no longer met that nexus threshold, how does that fluctuate? Do they just, once it's established for the first time, in perpetuity moving forward, they always pay sales tax, or is there a way that they disqualify and don't have to pay the following year? And is that a rolling thing? Is it an annual thing? How do you determine those thresholds that were shown earlier?
So it's a great question, actually, and I get asked that question quite a bit. So technically speaking, once the threshold has been exceeded, it is, as I like to say, once you're in, right? And whether it's a rolling or a calendar 12-month period, it also depends on the state, which varies from state to state. So there are some states that track their economic nexus based on a trailing 12 months. some are a calendar year. Ordinarily, again, what I said, like as I mentioned, once that threshold has been crossed, you're in, and that's what it is going forward. However, I have heard situations where over a certain amount of time where businesses have reached out to states and shown that they don't have a physical presence, they haven't had sales in X number of months or years, and have been able to facilitate a deregistration. I think that really kind of depends on the state. I can't personally speak to that directly because it's not something I've ever been involved with in any way, shape, or form, but I have heard that that is possible. The other way that's potentially possible is if you have, say, a remote employee in a state and that employee moves or leaves the company, you could potentially go back to the state and say, we had a registration done to this, based upon this remote employee. That remote employee is not there anymore, and we have not created nexus through economic activity. So, i.e., we have not crossed the threshold for that state. And I've heard that they have allowed deregistrations based upon that scenario as well.
Okay. Next question is regarding kind of point of sale. If the sales that we're doing within our company happen to be contractual over the phone sales, those aren't going through, say, an online payment process. So the challenge that we're faced with is giving our salespeople the ability to determine the tax based on the point of sale. And I was just curious, is there a certain system that is suggested? Is it an Avalara provided type thing? Otherwise, that's fine and dandy that we can calculate it after the fact, but we weren't able to collect it from the customer. So what are your thoughts on that?
So just to make sure I'm understanding your question. So company or business is using a point of sale, but they're taking a phone order. And the concern is whether or not they can calculate sales tax based upon that order being picked up or shipped.
Yeah, so imagine, for example, I have online a price.
Mm-hmm.
That price is what the retail is. The customer calls in and speaks to us, and based on what state they are in, let's assuming I have Nexus and therefore I'm going to have to collect sales tax. Well, it's one of the 55 places. The rate varies state to state as to what's owed. How do I put into my pricing sheet so my salesperson can quote that and collect it?
Yeah, so well, there's different ways really, based upon an upfront, like before, say, an invoice is created or even a purchase order or that kind of thing is created in a ERP or CRM. If you have access to Avalara, you are able to look up rates based upon one-off addresses. So in other words, you could go into your Avalara dashboard and put in an address. And it would also be associated with the product itself. So it would not only capture a rate, but it would also capture the any varying taxability around the product itself. And you could use that information for the sales sheet or sales order or what have you until it is actually put into the ERP or CRM, if that's what's actually being used.
So you're suggesting all of my salespeople would have access to an Avalara interface?
I think there's some confusion here. George, are you an out-of-the-box employee?
This is Roger that you're asking?
Roger, sorry.
Yeah. So what was your question?
I'm trying to understand what your scenario is when you're talking about your salespeople. Are you so that Kevin can answer it properly?
Yeah, no, it's very simple. It's a retail price. I have a
Okay.
consumer that calls in. The consumer is asking to make the transaction. The salesperson needs to make a quote as to what that transaction amount is. We have the retail, but because of Nexus, I've got to figure out where this consumer is calling from and where it's going to be shipped to. And you're telling me that I have to have my salesperson log into Avalara to figure out what the tax rate's going to be.
We have a we have a library. So again, of the 36 products that we have a library that you can purchase that has all of the tax codes and rates. It's called Avalara Tax Research. But generally, what you're asking for is exactly what AvaTax, the tool, does, right? You plug into something in an invoice and it pops out the exact tax amount based on exactly what you're talking about and where this person is located.
Okay, so my salesperson would have to have access to that to be able to quote the final amount.
So whatever CRM you're using inside your company, if you purchased Avalara, they would definitely have access to that.
Okay, so our CRM is Zoho. Do you integrate with Zoho?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, I'm the partner manager for Zoho Books as well.
And Roger, I would also add that you could set up users for the Avalara with Avalara login with certain permissions and what have you, so that if your sales folks had access to it, they would only be able to use certain features of the platform. They wouldn't actually be able to make any kind of changes or any mistakes happen through clicking through the platform itself.
Okay. Good.
We should set up
Thank
a
you.
call, Roger, afterwards to go over it in more detail for you.
Sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen a contact thing yet, so.
It's in the chat, and Lindsay's going to send out an email afterwards, but the contact info is in the chat right there.
Yeah, well, we'll get you the contact, everybody the contact information.
Well, forgive me. I'm not able to see how to access the chat, so I
Oh,
apologize.
no worries. Yeah, all these platforms are different. We got you. We'll
Okay.
take care of you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else? We've got 8 minutes left.
No one?
Well, then everybody should get 8 minutes of their life back and grab a, cup of coffee or iced tea or something like that.
I'll take
And,
it. Thank you.
Yeah, I know, right? When do you get this time? And we just really appreciate your time today. Roger, thanks for asking those questions. Those were really great questions. And Kevin and I are standing by to support y'all. So happy Tuesday.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining. If you think of any questions after the webinar, please feel free to contact Out of the Box and we will connect you with Avalara. As I said before, in our follow-up email, we will provide you with contact information as well as a recording from today's webinar. We hope you all have a great day and look forward to seeing you on a Tech Tuesday soon.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Talk to you soon, Roger. Thank you.